brain rot, a word you've heard and seen countless amount of times in the past year on Roblox. This was the biggest trend the platform has ever seen, when brain rot games could get hundreds of thousands and even millions of players daily, with Steal a Brain Rot even becoming the record holder for highest peak player count among any other game in the world. But despite all the popularity the brain rot trend has seen, the front page today looks very different. With the most popular brain rot game remaining the same Steal a Brain Rot, it is no longer close to the same top 3 spot it once easily held daily. And with that, we might be seeing the end of brain rot on Roblox. Steal a Brain Rot has always been sitting on the front page ever since it first became popular, which makes it different from other big brain rot games. And recently it had an update with admin abuse as usual, but this time it failed to reach 2 million players. This is the first time in over a year that it gets less than 2 million players during admin abuse. The game began to go viral in June 2025, and in just 1 month went from 22,000 to over 800,000 players. And because of such popularity, it actually started a whole 2 new trends. The Steal a Game trend, pretty much Steal a Brain Rot, but with other themes, such as Steal a Fish, Steal a SpongeBob, Steal a Clown, and hundreds other. And the second trend is the Brain Rot trend itself. It is not the first Brain Rot game, but it is the most successful one by a mile. That made other people try to make their own Brain Rot games. Games like Find the Brain Rot, Don't Wake the Brain Rot, Plants vs. Brain Rots, and many other have released, all getting a lot of players at the time. But one of them stands out, Plants vs. Brain Rots, or Plants and Brain Rots, as it is currently called. The game released around August last year and was fully bought by Jandel, who still remains the owner of it. The game, as you understand, is inspired by Plants vs. Zombies. You buy plants from a shop that has random stocks and defeat brain rots. When you defeat them, you get them and place right here to get money. Simple enough. This made the game second most popular brain rot on Roblox, or 4th most popular game in general. Right now the game sits at a few thousand players, but back in its prime time it could sometimes average over 1 million players. But it took the game just a few months before pretty much losing 98% of its players. Despite that, it is still actually getting weekly updates. There have been rumors about a sequel of the game being made, but months later, and nothing has ever happened. The one thing Plants and Brain Rots have showed us is that no matter how popular a brain rot game is, most of them will lose over 90% of players within a few months. And on the topic of big brain rot games, the next one was Escape Tsunami for Brain Rots. While Plants and Brain Rots was dying, this game was thriving. But besides this game being another huge brain rot game, it caused a huge change in the brain rot trend. The game, just like other brain rot games, is simple. In this case, you need to bring brain rots safely back to your base while not dying to tsunamis. And when you got them, you can level them up for more money. The game also has player upgrades and rebirths, as the other things you'll have to constantly look for. But why did I say that this game made a huge change in the brain rot trend? Pretty simple. It's the other brain rot games that released after Escape Tsunami 1. I've mentioned earlier how Steal a Brain Rot caused a wave of Steal a games, such as Steal a Fish. And while those games are basically copies of Steal a Brain Rot, but with a different theme to them, they weren't brain rot games. Escape Tsunami for Brain Rots, on the other hand, caused a very similar wave of games, but this time it was all brain rot. So now you had games like Survive Lava for Brain Rots, Swing Obby for Brain Rots, or even Skateboard for Brain Rots. These kind of games actually began to kill off the brain rot trend. The big difference between these newer brain rot games and the older ones is that while the older ones, like the same Plants and Brain Rots, or Don't Wake the Brain Rots that I mentioned earlier, are brain rot games that are pretty different from each other. The newer ones saw just how simple Escape Tsunami for Brain Rots was on release, and to be fair, the game is still pretty simple and even a little messy and stuff. But since it was so simple to recreate a game like this, now you would see hundreds of copy games that were trying to be very similar to Escape Tsunami for Brain Rots. The main gameplay loop of Escape Tsunami for Brain Rots is you having to bring brain rots safely without dying. Games like Survive Lava for brain rots made you hide from lava instead of tsunamis, and something like Swing Obby for brain rots instead of making you hide was more about you having to not mess up, but the main goal and gameplay itself remained the same. And you might wonder, what is the problem with that? Well, now instead of brain rot games being at least a little unique to each other, you had hundreds of the same games. And while people were already starting to get bored of brain rot games, the fact that 99% of the new brain rot games were essentially the same thing did not help in the slightest. If, say, you played Escape Tsunami for brain rots, then got bored of it and decided to play a different new brain rot game, you would be met with the exact same game mechanics and ideas. You can actually see something like this happen right now with +1 speed keyboard escape. It was not the first game with this idea, but after it became popular, there has been a lot more of the same kind of games. But back to brain rots. There was something else that happened that showed just how big brain rot was. Content creators. While there is a lot of videos with millions of views, I'm actually talking about content creators who made their own brain rot games. Remember Survive Lava for brain rots I mentioned like 2 minutes ago? This game is owned by Kalis and Stake, and it was one of the brain rot games to get over 1 million players. And while it did end up like the other games, it still gets over 1,000 players. But this wasn't the only popular brain rot game made by a creator. It was revealed by Roblox events that Creekcraft had his own brain rot game. It was pretty much just like every other brain rot game at the time, as in, you bring brain rots without dying and make money. The game actually lasted less than 2 months, but there was a whole drama around it, with people doing some really bad things to Creekcraft. And as time went on, you could see how brain rot was dying out. That is, until Kick a Lucky Block showed up. This is currently the last big brain rot game, which actually got a lot less players on its peak than the other 3. But nevertheless, it did at one point have the same average player count as Steal a Brain Rot. That, however, did not last long, because now in 3 months, the game went from over 200,000 players to nearly below 30,000. Why did the game never become as big as the other 3 I mentioned earlier? The same kind of gameplay, it's pretty much like the other games, but with a few extra steps. Something I haven't mentioned, but a part of reason why there were so many of the same kind of brain rot games are templates. Using Swing Obby for brain rots as example, its popularity was used to advertise a template, and templates allowed people to even easier create even more of the same kind of games. That was even happening to Kick a Lucky Block type of games. It is clear people wanted something new. This is why the front page looks so different now. You got games like Animal Hospital and +1 speed keyboard escape, which feature different gameplay. And yes, I know the keyboard game has a brain rot on one stage, but it's not centered around the brain rot like the brain rot games. Brain rot games have become too repetitive, and just in general, people grew tired of brain rots. Even a new game like Catch a Brain Rot, despite its quality, is not getting as many players as it would have if it were to release earlier. David Baszucki himself earlier this year also mentioned that they basically want less games like the repetitive brain rot games and more of the long-term games instead. And with that, it is safe to say that the brain rot era is actually ending, and now we got new other games take their place instead. Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. It helps the channel. You can watch one of these videos while waiting for a new one. They are good too. You can play our game or join my Discord server with links in description, and I will see you soon.